Let me tell you about one of the creepiest disappearances in Yoruba history. The village of, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Araromi Oke. In the mid-20th centuries, there was known to be a village called Araromi Oke. So back in the 1950s, it was a small farming community in southwest Nigeria. So people there lived off of yam harvest, palm wine tapping, and goat herding. Now, it wasn't healthy, but the people there were known for their laughter, their drumming at night, and the way that they honored their gods during festivals. But in 1957, everything changed. One morning, traders passing through said that they found the village completely empty. But here's the weird part, right? Fires are still burning, pots of soup are still bubbling, calabashes on fresh palm wine, clothes just freshly put out to dry on the line, even animals roaming around unfed. Clearly, there was activity. It seemed like there were people there, like people inhabited this village. Again, the traders, the people who walk past, obviously, like they know that people inhabit this village. And it just seemed like everybody just up and left and just left everything running. Everybody was gone. Every man, woman, and child suddenly and mysteriously vanished. And the crazy thing was, there were no bodies left behind, no blood, no sign of violence, no sign of struggle, nothing. It was just silent, as if people literally just vanished out of nowhere, just like up and poof. So of course people were speculating, trying to make sense of the situation as to what might have happened to these people. Some of the elders whisper that the villagers had broken a spiritual oath with Ogun, god of iron and war, and as punishment, the entire town was swallowed into the spirit world, leaving behind only the physical traces of daily life. Others believe that Araromi was founded on forbidden land, and that after many years, the ground reclaimed its people, drawing them back underground. And then of course there were some whispers of trickster spirits. Some versions mention Ajogun, malevolent spirit, or even Esu, the trickster deity, playing a role, luring the whole village away at night. Some conspiracy theories believe that it may have been wiped out by disease or even violence during late colonial times, and that the vanishing myth was created to hide the real history. And why is it haunting? Unlike most ghost stories of monsters or death, this myth actually terrifies people to their core because of its stillness. Food half eaten, fires still burning, a whole community gone, as though they stepped behind a curtain and just never came back. And to this day, some elders say that if you walk there at night, you might hear voices cooking, laughing, or drumming, but you will see no one. It's actually a lot harder than it looks to do your hair on camera and tell a spooky story. That's a terrible way of doing your edges. Don't do like me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that plus button for more spooky content. And make sure you leave a comment letting me know what you thought of this story. Somebody said that they will never go back to New Orleans, and this is why. I am back with another spooky story, and you may not want to watch this one at night. So Daphne went to New Orleans last summer with two of her friends. They wanted the authentic experience. So they booked this place off Dauphine Street. It looked harmless. Bright blue shutters, iron balcony. They had that charming French Quarter vibe. And inside of the house had antique furniture, and if you into that stuff, like, it was beautiful. It had like this old vibe to it. Well, the first night, nothing was really off. Besides the house being insanely humid, everything seemed normal. Daphne kept waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. because it felt like someone was standing at the end of her bed. You know that feeling in the room when someone's there? But when she looked, it was just shadows from the ceiling fan. The second night, that's when things started to pick up. Around 2 a.m., she woke up to pacing in the hallway. Slow, heavy steps. She thought it was one of her friends, so she called out. And the steps stopped right outside of her door. She didn't move for almost an hour. When she finally got the courage to open that door, the hallways were empty. Both of her friends were knocked out in their rooms. And by the third night, yeah, everybody had a story to tell. A friend said she woke up to someone tugging on the blanket at her feet. One of them swore she heard a woman crying in the living room. At first, everybody was laughing about it until they noticed something that would shut them up. Every single morning. Now, mind you, they were supposed to stay there for 10 days. Every morning, the chairs had been pulled out from under the dining table as if someone had been sitting there. They would always put them back every night, and sure enough, every morning they would wake up to all the chairs scattered. The next night, One of her friends swore she heard someone dragging furniture in the living room. So they all went and checked, and that's when they noticed that the chairs were moving on their own from under the table. Now, by night 5, this is when they decided that they couldn't do this anymore. At that point, everybody was exhausted. Daphne was dozing off, and she felt the mattress sink, as if someone had just sat down beside her. Her phone slipped out of her hand, and in the black screen reflection, she saw a woman's face over her shoulder, pale, eyes wide open. And when she whipped around, nothing was there. One of the friends had sleep paralysis in the other room, and in her paralysis, she saw this pale woman standing there with blood rushing down her cheeks and running toward her on the bed. And when the woman got close enough, the friend woke up, and the other friend woke up screaming that night. She said something grabbed at her ankle and scratched her feet. They saw like fingerprints on the floorboards, as if someone was crawling under the bed. They said that's all they needed to see. They left at sunrise and none of them looked back. Coco, New Orleans is haunted. I haven't done a haunted house story in so long. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, feel free to submit it to me right here on TikTok or on Instagram. For longer, better, and spookier stories, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl, featuring Coco. This teacher embarrassed me in school, but my Nigerian grandmother made her regret it. I am back with another spooky story. I'm gonna call the person who submitted this story Zanab. And she said her family is from Benin City, Edo State. I'm sorry if I butcher that. So Zanab grew up in Brooklyn, but her family is from Benin State. And she says that her grandmother still lives there, and people in her village absolutely fears her grandmother. And she is a pretty known priestess back home. So when Zanab was about 14 years old, she had this teacher. We're gonna call the teacher Miss Alvarez. She says Miss Alvarez was mean. She just loved humiliating her students. One day, Zanab got an answer wrong on the board, and she laughed at her and said to Zanab, "This is why your people never make it. You can't even learn basic math." Along other things that Miss Alvarez would do to make Zanab feel uncomfortable, like picking on her hair, traditional food that she would bring into school. The teacher would make fun of it. And sometimes it almost seemed like the teacher was rallying the students against Zanab. She said the last time that this teacher embarrassed her in front of her class, she was so embarrassed she felt like her face was burning. And that night, she went home and told her mother what happened. And while she was explaining everything to her mom, her grandmother was on the phone. And her grandmother said to Zanab, "Give me her name." Zanab said that she was scared. She didn't want to give the teacher's name because she knew what her grandmother would be up to. However, her grandmother felt very disrespected by the comment that the teacher made and basically asked Zainab for the teacher's name. Now, out of the pressure of the moment, Zainab gave the name to the grandmother. Now, Zainab kept going to school, and maybe a week later, said at school, things started happening. Miss Alvarez just started having these weird accidents. She just seems very clumsy. As she's writing on the board, chalk would just break in her hand. Papers would fly off her desk even if there's no wind in the classroom. And within a matter of days, Miss Alvarez just wasn't looking good. It looked like she lost weight. Her eyes looked like they were sinking into her skull. And she just looked sickly. Then came a smell. What Zainab described as burnt coffee and burning flowers. Every time she walked in the classroom, the entire classroom filled up with that stench. Then one afternoon, she screamed mid-lesson. She swore something bit her hand. But when she opened her palm, there were 3 long scratches, freshly bleeding. And it looked like claws had literally torn through her skin. And unfortunately for Miss Alvarez, that was only the beginning. I know you guys hate part 2s, but you guys are gonna have to leave a comment for part 2. And stick around for part 2 because what happened next spooked me to my core. Anyway, leave a comment saying part 2 and I will see you guys in part 2. Part 2, let's get into what happened to the teacher who mocked the wrong student. So after the scratches on her hand, nobody could explain that. Miss Alvarez also started missing school. And when she did show up, she looked different. Hollow cheeks, dark circles around her eyes. It seemed like she hadn't slept in weeks. And visibly, she looked weak. Like her hands would just shake when she's holding the chalk to write on the board. It would fall out of her hand. Other kids in the class started getting freaked out by this teacher because they said that they seen her talking to herself. And others swore that they heard her crying in the bathroom, praying in a language that no one recognized. And then the noises. At first, it was a faint tapping at her classroom window, although they were on the 2nd floor. Later, some students started talking about that they heard footsteps pacing back and forth behind her desk, and no one was there. And Zainab says she will never forget the day that her teacher froze mid-sentence, staring at the corner of the room, eyes wide open as if she's seeing someone standing there. And she whispered, "Leave me alone," before rushing out of the classroom. And one night, much like Martin Luther King, Zainab had a dream. She dreamt that Miss Alvarez stood barefoot outside of her grandmother's house in Edo State, her clothes shredded, and her skin looked dirty as if it had dirt on it. And Miss Alvarez in this dream was begging, crying, saying she was sorry. But behind Miss Alvarez, something shifted in the dark. Something with long, spidery arms. You couldn't see this creature's features or anything. All you saw were sharp teeth and the really long limbs. Well, that creature reached out and touched the teacher's shoulder. And when that happened, Miss Alvarez screamed so loud in the dream that it woke Zainab up. When Zainab woke up, she said she was gasping for air. The next day, Zainab went to school, and when Zainab got to school the following day, the teacher resigned. Officially, it was a nervous breakdown. However, in the school, the rumor started to spread pretty fast among students and teachers, as some said that they spotted her wandering the streets, barefoot, screaming about a woman in white who just would not leave her alone. Zainab herself, however, said she never saw her again. And Zainab said when she asked her grandmother to stop, she only laughed softly and said, "Never let anyone put shame on your blood. The spirits don't forget." And Zainab says till this day she doesn't know what terrifies her more. What happened to Miss Alvarez? Or the fact that her grandmother barely lifted a finger to make all of this happen across the world. Well, that completes this spooky story. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, please feel free to submit it to me right here on TikTok or DM me on Instagram, Rebecca_Journey. Follow me while you're there. And if you're looking for longer, better, and spookier stories, I tell long-form spooky stories on YouTube. We talk about everything spooky. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link is on top of my page. Like I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans. Past the moon, because the moon is too close. From your absolute favorite Haitian homegirl. So right now in the spooky community is a little bit of drama. Some people are upset and even unfollowing this creator called Ashley Inc. And I'm very familiar with her content. I mean, obviously I tell spooky stories. And I've also reacted to some of her videos on my YouTube page, which you guys should check out. As a spooky content creator myself, I don't necessarily consume spooky content. I just tell it. Through my research, of course, she's come up a lot. Now, she has managed to upset a few of her followers based on her reviews about Charlie Kirk's passing. Now, publicly, she's come out to play devil's advocate and that she feels really bad about his passing. He didn't deserve it and that she respected him. And a lot of people are shocked. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, we're unfollowing you because you're showing your true color. To me, white people are racist until they prove otherwise. I don't know why this is so shocking to people. Remember that your black ass experience or your colored ass experience is not the same as Ashley's experience. Now, I don't know where she's from, but what I can see with my eyes is that is a white woman. It's shocking to you guys that a white woman have white woman views. She can't understand for the life of her why, you know, some of her followers are upset by her take. Well, one, it didn't need to be a take knowing your niche. Two, you respected him when he has spread harmful and racist ideologies. He said that black people were better off as slaves because it kept the crime rates low. In one of the debates that he did that you just love and respect oh so much. I'm actually going to read to y'all some of the controversial and racist claims that Charlie Kirk made that Ashley Inc. respects. In January 2024, and I quote, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." Number two, calling the Civil Rights Act a mistake. Kirk also said that Martin Luther King, who he's never met, was not a good person. Let's move on. His commentary on prowling blacks. He once said, and I quote, "Happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact." His denial of white privilege and criticism of DEI, and some honorable mentions because who can forget, he made statements that several prominent black women like Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Joy Reid, and I quote, "do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously." And that's just a few things. So I don't know, Miss Ashley. I don't think the black community were celebrating throwing a party that Charlie Kirk was unalive. I think it's also some of the bold claims that he's made about having a rights to carry and having a few casualties. And he also said that he believed that execution should be public and televised. I think people are just baffled by the irony of his passing. I haven't thrown a party yet. It also hasn't disturbed my day. I can't feel sympathy for someone who has said those terrible things about the community that not only I'm in, other people that I love dearly and care about. This is like not surprising to me because just because they tell spooky stories, it doesn't mean that they're not MAGA. Like, two things can be true at once. You can be into spooky things, you can tell really good stories, but you can also support white supremacy. I'll be safe over there. I'm good though. From your favorite Haitian, black ass, homegirl. Imagine your best friend smiling in your face, but behind your back, she secretly traded your child's destiny for her own. That's exactly what happened in a small town in Nigeria, and the price to pay was horrifying. I am back with another spooky story. So in a small town in Nigeria, these two women were as close as sisters. We're gonna call them Fioma and Chika. Fioma and Chika grew up together and they seemed inseparable, like from childhood. They did everything together and they even lined up their lives to match with each other. They got married in the same year and they were pregnant together. They only had their babies months apart. After giving birth, Fioma's child was frail, always coughing, never strong enough to walk. And Chika's baby boy, meanwhile, was thriving, chubby, healthy, and full of life. And Fioma was concerned about her child's life. So one night, in desperation, Fioma went to a dibia, which would be like a witch doctor, and he told her, your child's Ori, their destiny is weak, but destinies can be exchanged. Another child must carry the weight. And Fioma hesitated. However, Fioma hesitated until she thought of Chika's baby. Well, that same night, she came to Chika's home under the excuse of visiting. While everyone slept, she secretly performed a ritual that the dibia taught her. She was given a red thread. She tied her baby's red thread to Chika's son, whispering the incantations and eventually swapping their fate. The next morning, Fioma's child was suddenly laughing, strong, and full of life. But Chika's boy grew pale, sickly, and hollow-eyed. And Chika wept and wept, never understanding how or why her healthy child started wasting away. And all the while, Fioma kept silent, smiling through her guilt. So many years later at this point, 12 years later, at a festival, Chika's weak son just died suddenly. People are mourning and obviously this got the people talking. During that boy's funeral, they said that the boy rose from the casket and said, "Mother, Fioma stole my life." And that same night after the funeral, Fioma's daughter woke up screaming. Her skin suddenly turned cold, her eyes turned white. She was calling out in what sounds like a boy's name. And she was screaming, "Give it back. It was never yours." And from then on, Fioma's household was just never at peace. Her daughter is still alive, but it seems like now the daughter loses grip with reality often. And as for Chika, she never forgave her friend. She understood what happened, and she always said, if you steal destiny, destiny will find a way to balance itself. Wow, this one was scary. It really do be your own man. Alright y'all, thank you guys for watching this spooky story. If you love spooky content, make sure you hit that plus button. Like I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl. So it's currently 10:40 p.m. and it seems like I have been left behind. Now I feel like in my lifetime, I've survived like 3 raptures. And at this point, I'm really starting to question things. What a girl's gotta do to get taken? Y'all don't want me in heaven? But on a serious note though, it's funny that I can joke about this today, but I grew up in a very religious household, in a very religious community. And there was one rapture that I will never forget. The year 2012. Like, it was such a big deal. It was 2012 was even worse than this one. If you thought people is selling their cars, that's crazy. No. In 2012, I seen it and I heard it with my own 2 eyes and 2 ears. People were selling their properties, cars, houses. People in the churches that I went to, buying flights, wanting to go back home so they can be raptured at home. I remember when it first came up. At the time, mind you, I was like 12, 13 years old. When this first came up, I was like, this is obviously ridiculous, right? Right? My dad was like, well, clearly it's ridiculous. But everybody else around my dad seemed to believe in this. Now, mind you, this was so intense that you couldn't escape this. Like, it was almost 2 daunting weeks. That shit was on the radio. The person I was living with at the time, the week leading up to the rapture. I remember this was supposed to take place on a Saturday. The week leading up was just such a week of preparation. The person I was living with at the time, she liked to listen to this Christian radio. We're like listening to this Christian radio and this guy is freaking reporting it. Like, he's talking about it like this is a matter of fact, like the world is ending. You know what that does to a 12-year-old me? Looking back at it, everybody around me had religious psychosis. Let's be for real. I even watched my father go from none, that's ridiculous, to, oh my God, the world might come to an end. Now, the whole week I went to school, everything went on. I remember that week, even kids were coming to school talking about, yeah, their parents is selling their house. Some kids didn't come to school the week of or the day before because they had to spend time with family, their last time with their family. This was serious. Now comes doomsday. Saturday morning, and I will never forget. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here, I'm up. I thought I was gonna wake up in heaven, but I'm looking around, I still see people in the crib. I'm like, all right, y'all ain't get taken yet. Of course, the Christian radio's on. And they pretty much said that the rapture is pretty much gonna happen anytime between noon and 6 p.m. Oh my God. I asked the person, my guardian at the time, if it's my last day here on earth, I just have one dying wish. She's like, what? I said, I want to go to the park. She says, well, I'm not going to take you to the park because I don't want to get taken at the park. I'm going to stay home, but you can go to the park if you want. Word? Sweet. I get to the park on a Saturday, mind you. It's empty. All the kids are at home embracing their families. It was maybe like 4 or 5 other kids at that park. But fuck it, we ball. I said I was going to get back home before noon. I stayed at the park past noon. I said if this rapture was gonna happen, I wanted to take me right here. Away from the Christian radio, away from we're all gonna die! Most peace I felt during doomsday. I remember I stayed in that park until like 4 or 5 p.m. I really stretched my luck that day. And I made my way back home and I walked back in and I'm like, okay, well, it's about to be 6. It's definitely gonna happen at 6. So should we just all huddle up? No? And then like nothing happened. It was very lackluster. It wasn't what I expected in my head. My 12-year-old head, I imagined a big explosion, like the earth was gonna implode. And the earth was gonna like crack open and then demons and heathens were gonna crawl out and grr, 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 and terrorize and run after us. And then like just when we think we're about to go, the chosen ones will just float up to the sky. They made me watch a terrifying movie about that. I say that to say religious psychosis is real. Stop traumatizing your children. I'm so glad that at my grown age now, I am able to live in reality. Somebody submitted a spooky story saying, I bought a house next to a cemetery, and now whatever lives there, I'm pretty sure wants me dead. I am back with another spooky story. We're gonna call the person who submitted this story Kenny. Now, Kenny says that he bought his house last year, and he lives in New Orleans right next to the Lafayette Cemetery, number 1. So Kenny says that literally as he's typing this story, he's shaking. He says that he's been living in that house for 9 months, and he fears that the house wants him dead. Kenny says that before he bought the house, everybody warned him. Everyone warned him about living in that neighborhood, even that house. However, Kenny says that he loves the spooky stuff and the price was unreal. The owner before literally told him not to buy this house. The owners before told him, they will know you're new here. And he said at the time he laughed. However, he's not laughing anymore. He said things started very small. So the first week, the first thing that he noticed was dirt on the floor in the hallway every morning. Like someone tracked mud inside of his house. And he says the best way he can describe the smell would be like a freshly opened grave. Well, Kenny would just clean up the dirt and move on. Week 2. He started hearing sounds of chains dragging upstairs. Yes, Kenny lives alone. He would go upstairs to check, and every single time, there would be nothing there. But when he goes back downstairs, it is as though he's hearing people dragging chains on the floor. And he says every week things just kept escalating. Week 3, that's when he started to notice that shadows were moving in the walls. No, it wasn't flickering like a candle. Full on walking, seeing shadows just travel across your wall. Kenny says that by month 2, the house itself felt like a living thing. He would wake up to wet fingerprints on his mirrors. His TV would turn on to static by itself. And he says that the peak of all of this activity would be anywhere between 3:02 and 3:07 a.m. Between 3:02 and 3:07 a.m., that is when the hauntings would start every time. He started to find clumps of black hair on his pillow that did not belong to him. Then came the rules. Now, Kenny says he doesn't know how to explain this, but at night, whispers would come from the cemetery. It sounded like a low chorus, almost like 100 people whispering his name. Kenny, Kenny, Kenny. One night, a voice, he heard an old female's voice say to him, blow the candle out or we'll come inside. I don't know if you guys know, but did you know that candles actually attract spirits? Anyway, Kenny thought it was a dream. Kenny woke up thinking that maybe this was a dream. Spoiler alert, it wasn't a dream. This is one of the most horrifying hauntings that I've ever read. I had to wait till the daytime to record this video. I know you guys hate part 2s, but I need to boost my algorithm and also get to work. So go ahead and leave a comment for part 2. And I will be dropping part 2 as soon as this video reaches 10,000 views. I really can't believe this story, bro. Let me know if y'all want me to finish this. From your favorite Haitian homegirl. So after Kenny heard, blow the candle out or we'll come inside. And he says, I swear to God, after that candle started flickering. Kenny didn't know what to do. He did not blow out the candle that night. As a matter of fact, he left every single light on until sunrise. But the next day when he woke up, he said the air in the house felt thick, like just thicker than usual. He feels like he's breathing through water. That night at 3:07 a.m., again, the candle blew itself out. He heard the front door creak open. Now, Kenny was always on top of locking his door. There's no way that people should be able to enter through the front door. But he hears the front door creak open very slow. He didn't want to get up to go check. He knows what he heard. So he's literally just laying in bed in fear until his bedroom door handle starts turning. Just a little. And then he hears footsteps walking in his direction. And it's like wet, dragging footsteps coming down from the hall. Can't even imagine how terrifying that must be. Kenny says when he finally worked up the strength to look, there was a woman standing right there in his doorway. Her dress appeared to be soaked. Her skin was gray, as if she's never touched sunlight. And the eyes were just black holes. And she smiled at him, revealing that she has black teeth. And then the lady said, "We told you not to buy this land." Kenny said at that moment he's so freaked out he tried to get up to run. However, he can't move. It is as though something he can't see is holding him down on the bed. Now, this isn't sleep paralysis. Kenny swore that he was awake. Kenny said no matter how hard he fought, his body just wouldn't respond. He said he felt like his veins had turned into mud and he couldn't even scream for help. He can only watch. As he is watching this lady or creature walk closer and closer to him, not knowing what she's gonna do. And she gets real close to Kenny. She smiled at him again. Then she walks away, lights the candle on the table, and just disappears. And unfortunately, Kenny is still not able to move. Kenny is watching this candle burn unbelievably fast. So fast that he watches the candle melt and burn through the table. Now at this point, there's a fire starting. Kenny still can't move. Kenny says he closed his eyes, just accepted his fate. And suddenly he felt this wave of energy. Maybe it was fight or flight, because he finally jolted up out the bed and ran out the house. Called the ambulance to come take out the fire. He says when he turned back to look at the house from outside, every window was fogged from the inside. He could have sworn he saw shadows just moving through the fog. Now Kenny says he refuses to give up his house to ghosts, but the story is unfolding as we speak. So some nights Kenny just crashes with his friends until he figures out what he's gonna do about that house. He doesn't know if the spirits are coming from the cemetery next door or if the house itself has something attached to it. But regardless, he says once he has the money, he's going to invest in a paranormal investigator and hopefully try to perform an exorcism on the house. That was very spooky if you ask me. Thank you guys so much for watching this spooky story. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, please feel free to submit it to me right here via DM or on Instagram. And while you're there, follow me on Instagram just so that I know that it's real. Duh. If you're looking for longer, better, and spookier stories, make sure you check out my YouTube channel and subscribe while you're at it. Like I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your absolute favorite Haitian homegirl. When it comes to hair care products, I stick with what I know. But I ran out of what I knew and I had to find something else. So I opened my cabinet and I found this brand. Now, I must have gone to an event over a year ago and they gave me these products. It's basically, this is the shampoo and then this one is the conditioner. I currently have the conditioner on my head. Y'all. Pretty much they are a leading dermatological brand specialized in science-backed hair care and skincare. First of all, the conditioner has this really cooling effect to it, which feels really good on my scalp. When I was at the event and they handed me this product and I saw that it said it was suitable for curly hair, basically your dermatologist would recommend this to you. It has this really cooling sensation, which I really enjoy. And then on top of that, I really wish you guys could feel my hair. I wish you guys could feel this. My hair feels so soft. Literally, this has been sitting in my cabinet for months. And I had a little damaged portion in my hair. And look at it. Why is it curling up? I am beyond impressed. beyond impressed. And Revita, you are now a part of my wash day. Let me go rinse this out. Okay, so I just washed out the conditioner and this is my hair, y'all. My hair feels amazing. Like, and then the curl definition, not too defined, but it's definitely there. What I will say is, from where I started to how my hair feels now, complete 180. My hair feels amazing. And this is not a sponsored video, so I'm gonna find the link on TikTok shop and I'm gonna tag it to the video, but I swear I wasn't trying to sell y'all nothing. They're not paying me to do this. I don't have a deal with the company. I genuinely think that this brand is a really good brand, and the dermatologist that is behind this knows what the fuck they're talking about. And this is from a 4C girly.